Chapter 5. Brian's truck wobbled along the rutted dirt road, and Olivia bounced in her seat as they hit yet another pothole, causing her to spill the last remnants of her coffee onto the floorboard. With a sigh, she retrieved a napkin from her bag and wiped her floral mug clean before she stashed it away. Lost in thought about the recent turn of events, she was caught off guard when Henry spoke.
Bumpy ride, huh?
She looked over to him. After the conversation with her father, she'd spoken with Brian, who insisted she return home right away. With winter approaching and bookings dwindling, he mentioned the lodge would be fine if she left early. She had seen the reservations and knew he was lying, but she appreciated his intention to negate any potential guilt she might have for her premature departure. He also arranged a seat for her on a private plane heading to Seattle. From there, she'd catch a connecting flight to Billings, and a short drive from there would bring her to Red Lodge, to her grandma's house. Although saddened by the reality that she wouldn't be back anytime soon, Brian assured her she would be welcome back at the lodge the following season. Henry, her client from earlier in the week, was booked on the same flight. It would be nice to have a familiar face on the plane ride back, but she also didn't have much energy for small talk when she was so consumed in her grief.
Indeed it is,
Olivia replied, gazing out the window at the passing scenery.
I had forgotten how rough this road is. This is actually my first time back into town this season.
I can understand why.
Henry remarked.
Leaving that lodge must be difficult.
He shifted his attention towards Brian.
You've really built something special, Brian, and your fishing guides are top-notch, with Olivia being among the best I've ever had.
Thank you, Henry.
Brian said as he cranked the wheel, narrowly missing another pothole.
We will certainly miss her, but family always comes first.
Olivia's face flushed at the unexpected attention.
Hey, Henry, how did the fishing downriver with Felix go the other day?
Olivia asked, eager to pivot the conversation away from herself.
Well,
He replied with a grin.
it depends on who you ask, me or the bears.
Olivia leaned in.
Did one of them get a little too close?
She asked playfully, imagining an intriguing encounter between Henry, Felix, and a couple of curious bears. Henry let out a sigh.
Yeah, actually. Mama and her 3 cubs came running up to us. Before I knew it, Felix had his bear spray unloaded on her. Let me tell you, that stuff is nasty. It looked like she hit a trampoline, the way she and those cubs stopped and ran back the other way. I couldn't imagine a pistol having the same effect.
Yeah, bear spray can be a lifesaver in the wild. I had to use it a few times, and it's not a pleasant experience if the wind is blowing toward you.
Henry nodded and continued.
After the bear encounter, we decided to move on and hiked a mile downriver to a stunning pool. From atop the bluff, I spotted thousands of bright red salmon making their way upstream. I've never seen anything like it. I grabbed my phone and took a few photos.
Henry took out his phone.
Oh, then suddenly we spotted 3 massive bears stepping out from the brush. They splashed and chased the fish all over the pool, occasionally catching a few. It was quite a sight to behold.
He swiped through the photos as he showed them to Olivia.
Wow, that's amazing. Too bad you couldn't fish there.
That's exactly what Felix said too. But after a few moments of watching them, we decided the bears weren't leaving, and we didn't want to risk another encounter. So we just headed back to the lodge. Yesterday, I went out with Brian, and we floated the same section you and I passed. I caught a few good salmon, but it wasn't anything like that tributary you guided me to. I still can't believe that giant char I caught.
Henry said with a hint of nostalgia. He swiped over to the picture of him proudly holding the 32-inch char. Olivia couldn't help but smile at that memory.
It was a great day, wasn't it?
Henry chuckled, admiring the photo.
Sure was. You're just a better guide than old Felix.
He teased. Olivia grinned.
That's not the first time I've heard that, but at least Felix tries.
I'm sorry to hear you have to head back, Olivia.
Henry said in a gentle tone.
Brian mentioned something about a family member, but he didn't give much detail. It's okay if you don't want to talk about it, but I just wanted to express my condolences.
Olivia glanced down at the spilt coffee below her feet and decided to open up, sharing the details of her grandma's passing and her plans to return to Montana for the funeral, followed by an extended stay for the winter.
I'm sorry for your loss. Were you too close?
We were. She was my rock during a tough time a few years ago. I'll never forget how much she helped me through it. If it weren't for her, I never would have met Brian. She introduced me to him through a mutual friend, and that's how I ended up out here.
It sounds like she was an incredible woman.
Henry commented.
She was.
The remainder of the ride was relatively uneventful, with the occasional small talk and fishing tales, until they arrived at the secluded Riverside Airport reserved for private planes.
Here we are.
Brian announced as he parked the truck and stepped out to unload bags. Henry got out and Olivia trailed behind him.
Thank you for the amazing trip, Brian. It was quite an experience, and I hope to come back soon. Maybe I can even convince my son to come with me next time.
Brian shook his hand before handing over his bag.
We'd love to have you back anytime. It was a pleasure having you. Have a safe trip home and congratulations on the upcoming grandbaby.
Brian then retrieved Olivia's large bag and hugged her before handing it over.
We'll miss you up here. Take care of yourself and your family, and we'll see you next year.
Absolutely, Brian. I'll be back before you know it. Good luck with the rest of the season. You're going to need it.
Brian chuckled and nodded his head in agreement. He climbed back into his pickup, rolled his window down, and waved as he drove out of the parking lot and back toward the lodge. Olivia was unfamiliar with this private airport as she had always traveled through the larger airport in King Salmon. However, Brian liked to go the extra mile to enhance his guests' experiences and had arranged a direct flight to Seattle for Henry with a local pilot named Terry. Since Terry had an extra seat, he offered it to Olivia for free as a gesture of gratitude for the business Brian had brought him over the years. This saved a considerable amount of time and money compared to the traditional route, and Olivia was thrilled as she was scheduled to be back home to Montana by midnight.
Do you know where we should go?
Olivia asked Henry, confused by the casual setting and lack of signs.
Yeah, our plane is just down there, behind the man sitting on the bench in the suit.
Henry pointed out a small prop plane tied next to a dock 100 feet away. The plane appeared aged, with peeling paint in some areas and rust starting to take over.
Are you sure it's safe?
Henry laughed.
First time flying private, and you're already a connoisseur?
It just looks old and run down. Like the kind of car you give to a teenager. You know, the kind that sometimes starts is littered with scratches and dents, and you fully expect it to die on you at any moment.
I know exactly what you're talking about. We gave my son one of those. A Kalinkvinhat Ford Taurus. I want to say it was blue, but there were so many scratches and rust that I couldn't tell.
He laughed.
But this plane is fine. I had a great flight on the way up here with no issues at all. Nothing to be worried about.
The two approached the dock and settled down on the open bench across from the plane. Terry, the pilot, had not yet arrived, and there was no one there to greet them except for the man in the suit, who glanced away as they sat down. Olivia took a deep breath, trying to ease her nerves, and reminded herself of Henry's words. She hoped their flight would be uneventful and safe. Nothing to be worried about.